is perfect. Oh. Huh? That is perfect. It's just, are you sharing there? Because you may want to come over here. There's just a bit of a glare.
It's a video.
Like it's right now. It's how you're live.
Okay. Where would you like me to sit?
Just a little bit more that way. Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, it is.
I guess the audio that matters.
Right in the camera.
Oh yeah. Do you reckon there's audio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh dear.
This one's got a name. The Battle for Life.
Is it good? Oh, thanks.
The Battle for Life. As we plot our way forward as a group in how we gather and how we function, I want you to understand that what I'm about to say now undergirds everything. What we are corporately is simply the sum total of the individuals, and if we are not thriving inside our souls, then there's no way that this body can thrive within itself. So even though each of you have your personal responsibility before God for your own walk, I want you to realise that each has a responsibility for Jesus presencing himself in the midst. He cannot do that without that midst having a thriving life with him, each individual. That probably came out more complicated than I meant.
That's good.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk about the battle for life. Any group who seek to carry the presence of God, the testimony of God, will have a battle on their hands for life. This is the universal testimony or story in Scripture. God seeking a people who are his very own, where he is their God and they are his people. In other words, where he can presence himself and come and live with himself, with them rather. When God made Adam and Eve, he walked with them in the cool of the evening. When he built the tabernacle, it was his presence was there on the earth. When Jesus was said, the kingdom of God is to be within you, and the Holy Spirit came with pillars of fire upon the believers at Pentecost. What you've got to do is tie that in with that's the same pillar of fire, only in a smaller form as what was over the tabernacle with the Jews in the wilderness.
Are you okay? Do you answer? No.
No.
But it's okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
I mean, all I know is that for all of us when we were new Christians, we just grabbed what we could understand, knowing there was much that we wouldn't, knowing that we're going to walk with the Lord for the rest of our lives and we'll eventually catch up. Is that true or not?
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah. And the good thing about new Christians is they can suck water out of a rock when it comes to their hunger. So God is able to speak to new Christians through simple things, through anything, because they are so receptive. True?
True.
So you're the least of my problems, right? That was a compliment, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you look at God with the people of Israel, he was wanting to be with them, and they were the ones that were always pulling away. They were the ones that were always going astray, and he was always calling them back, and they were going astray. And what you've got to understand, that's a picture of humanity. It's a picture of a human trying to walk with God, and to a degree, that will also be a picture of us, of us learning to walk with God, learning to understand that his life inside our soul is our answer, but to hold onto that truth is going to be a battle for the rest of your life. The battle for life is to keep the life of God thriving inside your own soul will be a battle for you for the rest of your life. And why I'm saying that is so that you understand that it will be a battle, so that you know what you have to protect as you walk through this life. Because it will be challenged. And to not realise that in warfare they say to be, what do they say? To be, basically to know in advance is the beginning of defence. It's like if America knew that Pearl Harbor was going to happen, we won't go into the fact that they did. You know what I mean? But the point is that they would have been able to save their fleet. They would have put it out to sea. They weren't prepared. They didn't know they had an enemy. They didn't know that they would have a battle, and they were unprepared. And so you have 3 enemies. You will always have 3 enemies. You need to know your enemies. You need to know what's at stake and what's required to beat these enemies, which you can, and to protect yourselves from these enemies. But to be naive is to set yourself up to fail. And yes, through failure, you will learn. But the number of Christians who I've seen crash and burn through failure and not get up again means that I would gladly try and protect you from failure. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, your 3 enemies. First of all, when it comes to the battle for life, in every Christian group, there's always the danger of the preacher will preach to one group, not 2 groups, because there's always 2 groups in the one group. Always will be. Because Jesus said that will always be. In any group of Christians, there will always be a mixture. Always be a mixture. There'll be sheep and there'll be goats. There'll be wheat and there'll be tares. And we won't go into why. It's just the nature of things. Every church I've been into, there's a mixture. And a preacher will preach as if everybody's on the same page. Everybody's a Christian. Everybody loves Jesus. Everyone has life. And then he preaches on from there. And that assumption itself is harmful for the people who think they have it but don't have it. And then there's another group that think they have it and don't have it. And there's another group that know they don't have it and they don't belong there. But I will say that in this group, there are people who have life, the life of Christ in their soul. They're alive. And they love Jesus. They have a first love. And then they can wax and wane with that love and with their devotion to the Lord. And that is the battle for life for them. Staying close to Jesus in your heart. Then there's other people who think they have it, but they've never truly tasted it. For them, no matter what they hear, even as they hear this, they'll translate what I'm saying now into some sort of performance-based religion inside their head that they've made up. Where they'll think, I have to try harder. I will say it's all about life, and they'll hear, what they hear is I have to try harder, I'm not trying hard enough. I'm not trying hard enough. If I was to share about our need to have a soft heart towards the Lord, they would hear I have to try harder. I have to perform. I have to work at this. I need to go home and I need to work at this, you know. Now, and I'm saying, spend time with the Lord. They will think, yes, I need to. Oh, yes, I should. I need to go home and I need to work at this. And although there's an element of truth in that, that's all they got. And they don't know that's all they've got. And so for them, it's a place of coming into life, which is coming into this place where they truly meet the Lord. And they walk away changed and with a new heart. And that's their deal. But today I really want to address the people where they know they have life and it's something that they drift in and out of. And I want to talk about the deceptions that can happen to us when we're going in and out of life, because we can do it without knowing it. And we think we're going really well with God when in fact we're not really. It's just the mirror's gone dull. We start to judge each other by comparisons with each other. I'm doing better than him and her, so I'm doing well. And human beings, do they do that or not? None of you have ever done that one. No. Not me. I haven't had one. Jeremy hasn't.
That's true.
Yeah, I know that because you do better than him. I get it. And so anyway, yes. Your 3 enemies are this world, right? Your own flesh, and the devil. Okay, and all 3 can have a deceiving, drifting, subtle effect upon life. life is usually never suddenly lost as to the point you suddenly recognised it, where you just went off a cliff. It's slowly and subtly lost. That's okay. You need to take it. So I just thought I might address those three areas, and as I do, I want you to ask yourself this question: am I far from God myself? Am I walking close? Am I as close as I want to be? And take personal responsibility for it. How many of you, when it comes to this world has a spirit attached to it. You probably noticed the whole spirit of the age accelerating with this agenda, with the whole leftist, whatever it is, gender and climate change and whatever else is being peddled by the media. It has its own agenda, its own spirit. But there's other spirits. There's the spirit of a city. The spirit of a city causes people to rush. The spirit of a city causes people to have no time. And when someone says, I'm just too, I don't have time to spend with the Lord, that's not a time issue. It's a spiritual issue. It's a heart issue. It's not a time issue. So like I said, everything, whether it's the enemy, whether it's in the form of this world, demanding the tyranny of the urgent, they need your attention because you've got bills, you've got financial pressure, you've got relational pressure, you're busy at this, you have demands on you from this side, this side, this side. And you've got all these pressures that sort of tell you they're screaming at you, give me your attention. Give me, it's not just give me your attention, it's give me your heart. Give me, sow into me as your priority. I am demanding priority here. And the world will always demand priority. It's not going to change its conversation with you. You're not, how many of you got over a busy hump only to encounter another one? Let me put it this way. If you were in Africa, you'd be getting by and you would have 5 hours to talk to someone. If you live in rural Africa anyway. But now you can barely squeeze any of that time in. You are under the spirit, and you go over to Africa and you can see their issues. Why are they so hung up on water spirits? What's the deal with ancestral spirits? What's the deal with abdication and entitlement? What's the deal with all of that? Can't they see that's wrong? I don't live under that. And when they come over here, they see, and you talk to them about it, they can't see it. They come over here, and Sipo will tell you, because she's, and Petra, anyone who's an adult, lived a long time in one culture, come over to this culture will tell you that they can see straight through a whole lot of things that you give yourself excuses for, where you are fully under the spirit of the age and you think you're free as a Christian. But you are not. You are under. Anybody who is under the influence and the control of the spirit is not exercising the authority of the kingdom over that spirit. That spirit is exercising authority over them. And that's the fight that you have. Being blind to it is not a good start. Who agree? Now, can you share anything on this? Is this observable? Can you see what I'm saying with this? You can? People being too busy for people being too busy for anything because they've got to actually, and who some people that can be the worst, people who come from a poverty background into a wealthy Western background can be the worst at this because they buy into the lie that if they become financially secure, they're secure. Sorry?
I didn't understand well. I didn't quite get it.
Okay. When someone comes from a poverty culture to a place where they have the opportunity to escape poverty, then they believe that if I sow my life into getting materially secure, then I will be secure. that is the definition of a successful and a safe life. And they work harder than other people, have 3 jobs, not one, to get secure as an answer for their own insecurities. And so, like I said, that is the definition of materialism. A materialistic culture sees its answer in tangible things, the things of this world. That's what materialism is. It's not somebody who wants to go out and buy more than you. So, the things of this world can be materialism, can be the spirit of the age, and it can come in subtle forms, such as how many of you have bought into the world system of recreation? Now, we have to be really careful here, because I don't want to put people under law, and I don't want people to then start setting up laws for themselves. I'm trying to get to the roots of things where we put deceptions upon ourselves, where there's a battle for life and we're losing life through one of these avenues, but we're not aware of it. And setting up laws is not going to stop the loss of life. But you recognizing what is precious and you making choices to battle to protect it will. But how many of us, when we're tired, we will give into the world's way of recreation? Let me help you. I just want to chill out. I just want to lay back and I just want to blank out in front of a ... A good book. How old are you, son? People that said that, people who said that are either massively good readers or they existed before TV. or they're smart enough not to have a TV. Don't point fingers at anybody.
I don't read much.
Stop this. Stop pointing fingers.
Why don't you start?
Stop pointing fingers. It doesn't matter. Just...
Why keep working?
This is the hardest thing to talk about to people, because all of a sudden they feel guilty or they feel imposed upon, or I'm trying to get you to ask the question, am I losing life, and why am I losing life, and where's the channels?
Yeah, it's not a sin to sit in front of the TV. No. But if you're losing life through it, then to make it right and wrong and sin is to, I think, is to miss the point. It's a battle for life that you have to fight. The other one is your own flesh. And I just want to give you some examples of how that outworks itself. Like I said, these things, we drift into them, we end up in these things, and we start losing life without knowing it. And so you need to know your signals. So when you are getting into, I'll just be straight out, when you're starting to binge on TV, when you're starting to get into a habit where that's all you're doing, when you get into a habit when people are saying, hey, let's do something like that might involve the Lord, and you're thinking, oh, actually, I'd rather do this, I'd rather do that, I'd rather do this. Do you understand? Then something's happening to your heart, and your affections are being stolen off the Lord onto the things of this world without you knowing it, and there's a growing dependence that you'll either defend or you'll react to. So even if I talk about this, you'll be reactive in your own heart. Well, how dare he? Or you know, like, you'll get all uppity about it, rather than having this objectivity and applying it to yourself. And the other one is with your flesh. It's really hard and it's subtle. I like, and we've got to be honest, this is something we all fall in and out of. There's, sooner or later, virtually every one of you are going to fall into the subtle trap of entertainment. You'll be medicating something and not knowing you're doing it, and it's still hard to work out what it is. You don't know. There'll be other times when you'll just be giving your flesh too much latitude. You've never learnt self-control, and you've managed to avoid the whole issue of self-control your entire life. And it's very hard for God to address that with you, because your flesh is so utterly used to getting its own way. And you can think you're being very, very spiritual, but you can actually be fully overcome by your own flesh and never even know that. Some of us,
there's many, many different ways. The rise of pride, being self-occupied, are classic symptoms of the flesh. Normally you can see your own flesh through brief reactions more than you can through consistency. I better clarify that. If I had rats in my... If I was an American and I had a cellar, you know how the cellar, they always got the heater, the oil heater for the whole house because it's so cold, and there might be rats in there, you know what I mean? And so if I opened the door, put my hand in, turned the light on, and then threw the door open, the rats are probably all gone and I don't see them. But if I just threw the door open and had a torchlight, just bang, I could probably see the rats. They're there for a brief moment when the door's flung open. They're there when your selfishness is suddenly challenged. They're there when something doesn't go your way, you don't get your own way. There's something when something disagrees with you, disapproves you, someone was inconsiderate towards you, whatever it is. There's this little brief reaction within you that you get a window to see the rats in the cellar before they're gone and you don't see them again and start thinking of yourself more highly than you ought. Does anybody understand what I'm saying? Okay, so there's a window for you to see your own flesh. Your associations will always tell you more about yourself than you care to face. If you do you find it when people start talking about Jesus together in a group, do you start to feel uncomfortable and you like talking about God a little bit, but too much God talk is a little bit too much for you and you start to move away where people talk about more normal things and things more attuned that you can become more comfortable in talking about, and it's just showing you something about the temperature of your own heart, where it's not overflowing with a love and a devotion, because people will naturally talk about the things that are closest to their hearts and are brimming over in their hearts. And if that's the Lord, then He's your delight. And there is a delight, and your devotion is deep, and it's real, and it's vital, and it's overflowing. But if it's not like that, you'll find most comfortable in conversation that isn't like that. That's a window into your own state. And you don't necessarily get to see it unless we have these sorts of conversations and you're humble enough and courageous enough to face what could be there. I'm not saying it's there. The worst thing about these sorts of conversations is the ones that are softest and it's most non-applicable to take it on the most. But if I'm aiming an arrow at that person there, because I'm not really, just pretend, and they'll dive across to get the arrow because they just want God to convict them because they want to be right with God, and the one who's most deceived is the most unresponsive to challenges like this. That's what I'm talking about, this slow ebb of life to the point where they're unarousable with even challenging and searching messages because they've got this hunch, I don't care, or it's somehow not applicable to me. And that's what I'm talking about. Death has taken root. It's taken a grip upon a person. At that point, they're not far. They are already backslidden in their heart. And where their heart goes, so their life goes also. That's the other thing. And the thing of the flesh is to be observed in our choices. We think of ourselves so spiritual, but if we make choices that are over here, where's the real indicator of the heart? What we think about ourselves, or what we're choosing? Does that make sense? What's the true indicator of the heart? What we think about ourselves, how spiritual we are, and how much we love our God with all of our sentiment, or what we're choosing? What is the true window into the state of our heart? I cannot tell you how many times I've seen girls say they love Jesus and they'll choose to want to spend the rest of their life with a man who doesn't. That choice, rather than their sentiment of how much they love Jesus, shows you what is really going on. And that's a window into their soul that they usually look into and discover it's a mirror 10 to 15 years into marriage, and they suddenly realise what they've done. And they tie it back to, that's who I was back then. So our decisions can be a mirror into the state of our heart. Our desire for the things of this world and believing that recreation and entertainment of this world is what we need. You're still buying into the lie that this world has our answers. And you tell me if it's not walking very, very close to the line with the second commandment. Who knows what the second commandment is? I'm sure you do. Some of you do.
Mama.
Oh, they've got this really good book you should read. It's like Translating Life. With one chapter, it lays them all out. At least this little bit does here. The second commandment is, thou shalt have no other idols before me. What's an idol? A go-to. A go-to for when I am stressed, a go-to when I am not quite coping, a go-to that will enable me to escape the pressures of this world. So why do do you think this doesn't challenge me as well? Why do we do what we do? Aren't they windows into our heart and the state of our heart? Aren't they hard to look into and accept because we're there? But our choices and our lifestyle choices are showing us more than we care to see. Like I said, it's a battle for life, and you have enemies and you've got to know them. And you'll have to fight to keep life individually. And because of that, us as a body, anybody that's wanted to be a testimony and a witness to Christ has had to fight for life. Individually, and because of that, corporately. And this is very real. I believe it's very real and very pertinent to us. Our flesh, like I said, our affections in our heart, the decisions that we make, the associations that we keep, and our reactions. The next one is the devil. We have the world trying to encroach in our life all the time and force upon us its philosophies, force upon us its predominance. How beautiful. Yeah, I saw her. I'm going to You have your own flesh. And the world is deceptive. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your own flesh is probably the most deceptive thing. Pride. What's the best indicator that you're moving into pride? Ask the marrieds first. They all know straight away. Reactions, yeah. Yeah. Conflict.
Blame each other.
Conflict. How do you blame each other without conflict? Well, darling, I just want to put it to you in a way. I really hope you're godly and receptive and spiritual enough to receive this. It really is your fault.
You think that you're always right.
You think you're always right.
That's what I was thinking.
Pride comes in as way failure to understand, failure to hear, failure to consider, failure to have yourself out of the road to see what's really going on in the other person, failure to look beyond the obvious, failure to believe that this is God's way of wanting to make you mature and godly, you know what I mean? Like, failure is so, like, you know, like, you could write a book on it, couldn't you? So conflict is the fastest way for you to see your own state. One of the troubles, if you live with this perfect, like all the singles, I think that Melody and Sylvia and Rosie seem to get along so well. I thought, goodness, how are they going to grow spiritually? There's no conflict, there was no harmony, and there's just like, wow, for them, oh well. Missing out, yeah, that's right. You need to invite someone really horrible into your household just to help you along.
The next person I
No, this feels like, no, this is me. Paul being bad now. Okay.
No, you just the point in our house, humbleness is what's been practicing the best.
Oh, Paul, where it is. Nailed it.
Your Highness.
In our house, we practice, the reason we get along is we're practicing humility. That's right. Well, there you go. That's the answer right there.
Noted.
the devil works through all of those ways. He reinforces there. The heaviest rock he has in your life to drag you down is your own flesh. The constant that he has over your life is the world. But his specific arrows that he aims at you would be offence and unforgiveness would be one. Deception in the way of you becoming unteachable, or what's another way? Not dealing with secret things. Anyone ever heard of the word stronghold? Who gives a really good definition? What is a stronghold?
Demons.
Sorry?
Demons.
Yes, but it doesn't seem like demons, because it's when a demon gets a stronghold in your own life, it means that there's an area,
Myself.
yes, an area that the devil has a stronghold of. And that will always be in secret. Addictions, secret sins that you are ashamed of, that you can't tell anybody about because they'll think lesser of you, and then you'll have the humiliation of being the worst amongst everybody if people knew. So you must keep that secret. And so whilst you're keeping it secret, that demon has a stronghold of an area of your life. It doesn't mean you're possessed by a demon necessarily, but what it means is, like, if you're a city, if your life was a city, and you had this vacant block you hadn't built anything on, and you get some squatters coming in and setting up camp, putting up their signs, we're just a protest group, you know what I mean, we're occupying Wall Street, whatever, then they're squatters that have taken hold of an area in the city, and that if they entrench themselves and if they're not moved on, they'll gain a strong hold on that ground. That's like an area of your life. And so a devil, and he'll keep you entrapped and block your growing. And the point is that it's a blockage to life. His target is to diminish the life of Christ inside your soul. All of these things, their target is to diminish the life of Christ in your soul. It's not about you being a good or bad person. You can understand this is a battle for what? Battle for life. You've got to know what the precious is and what it is you're meant to be protecting. I hope this is making some sense. What are other indicators of life? Wherever your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Can I ask you questions personally? What do you spend your money on?
Kids.
Food.
That's true. Kids. Parents get this straight easy out with the kids, but then there's one word. There's no easy out with that, because there's one word that you leave out in front of the word kids.
My list, where's my list?
Because I know because you are not sowing your life into my kids, and they're kids too. My kids. Harry's kids. It's no. It all goes pear-shaped. It's your fault! They're your children. You didn't train them. So, what do you spend your money on? Bills. Whose bills? Goals. Whose goals? I would give some to God, but by the time I spend it all on myself, there's none left. What do you spend all your time on? A bit for God, a bit for others, and a lot for me. I hope some of this is making sense. It's not to condemn people. It's we all will slip into this, in and out, for the rest of our lives. Can we be realistic with this? But we've got to know that it's a battle for one thing. And to lose that one precious thing is the target of the enemy with all of these things. So you've got to know what to protect. And anyone ever played Capture the Flag? Capture the Flag. It's what they call a wide game with a whole bunch of young people where they might have a flag stuck to a tree, and the other one, this other team's got a flag stuck to that tree over there, and their objective is to get your flag and yours to get them, remember that? But every time they get tagged, they have to go back to base, and you know what I mean? You ever played that game?
Video game or something.
Yeah, but what happens if somebody had a fake flag up and the real flag was over there? You know what I mean? Or what if you thought that was your flag, but your enemy thought, no, that's the flag, and they went straight after that, and you defended the wrong one, and you didn't defend that, and they got it? Okay, well, what's your flag? What are you protecting? Is it the right flag? It's a battle for what? For life. That's your flag you have to protect. Are you walking in life? Are you close to the Lord? Is your heart brimming over with the love? Is there a ruling love in your heart that says, I want to please God and I want to build the kingdom of God as my first priority, and that is the delight of my heart? And are you sowing time? Because you can't have that without being humbly dependent upon the Lord and spending a lot of time actually with Him. It is impossible to sustain life outside of a relationship with the Lord. And the fundamental of relationship is heart and time. Heart and time. A well-adjusted heart that's chosen relationship and therefore wants to invest time. So on that basis, with a heart of self-examination, this is a question of, do you want to stay alive? Do you want to keep your first love all the way to the end? And it's a battle for life. It's about nothing spiritual. It's about in your own heart being alive with the Lord because you want to stay alive. You don't want to lose that. So this comes...
I would like to say something after you.
No, you go ahead right now.
What are we talking about now about this world on flesh and the devil and being far away from the Lord? I have experienced that recently. And I'm not ashamed to say that I was struggling with addiction and temptation for a very long time, and I tried to get away from them, but it was a strong hold of devil that I could not. Like, my heart didn't want it, but it became a habit. That it's like you just do it, like doesn't matter. Like you ask for forgiveness next day, but then I'll do it again. But it was bothering me so much that I literally cried when I'm praying to the Lord. I said, Lord, I can't help myself. I need your help, you know. And I spoke to so many people. I spoke to Phil recently, and the answer was, all you need to do is just submit yourself to Lord again. Like, it's not like if you are saved, that doesn't mean that you'll be saved all of your life. You have to keep asking Lord again and again, like, and you do start or feel like you away from Lord. So that's what I did a few weeks ago. I just submitted myself fully, and I had the same feeling that I had when I first got saved. I had the same spiritual hunger. I was happy after a very long time because I felt that I'm free again. And it's just automatically, I don't feel the same that I was with the stronghold of the devil. It's just like the devil just gone. It's just gone, you know. And I feel proud to tell every one of you that I'm free again. And that hunger inside me, like, it's alive again, you know, and I'm close to God again. But I had that stronghold of devil inside me that I was like, no way I can escape now. But all I had to do is ask Lord, just take me, Lord. You know that I'm your child, and I know that I'm your child. But just don't let me get away. just don't think about it anymore. I'm feeling happy, like honestly, I just feel happy. It's just like stress, Lord has taken my stress. It's like, don't worry, I'll look after you. And straight away, the very first day, I just felt the favour. Like I had the favour from the Lord at work. I was like a different person. Completely different person. It's all because of what's happening.
It's good.
Really beautiful stuff. Beautiful. And whatever you just talking about just now, all those three things that we were relation, that was like, oh, that was me. Oh,
Yeah.
so
Good. Explain everything. It does. I think that's a perfect place to hold that thought and allow the Lord to work in our own hearts and peel away the deception for each of us. Now, this is applicable to every single one of us, including me. The best truth and the worst truth in the world is what? You're only as close to God as you want to be. But no matter how close you are, there is always closer still. There is no limit with God. There's no end to journey into God. So He's always inviting you into more. There is always more with the Lord. And so there is always the challenge of what do I truly want? Where will I truly settle? For each and every one of us. So there's none of us that is exempt from it. That's good. So let's without guilt, with a cleansed conscience through the blood, realise that life is what He wants for us, or what we truly want for ourselves, but we're just aware that we have enemies and we need to fight for life. Amen? Amen. Shall we? Whoever wants to pray for the bread, the wine, we'll just open up now and this little body work.
Lord, we thank you for the word that's been shared. We thank you, Lord, that that we never stop learning from you, God. And we thank you that you have revealed this to us, that we have a battle to fight, Lord, that we're still having to fight throughout each day, Lord. And so, Father, we pray that as we live each day, Lord, that we may seek to get closer than we were the day before, Lord. That we may seek to find wisdom from you, Lord. That we may be able to be aware of ourselves and to be aware of the world and to be aware of what the devil is up to within us, Lord, and towards us, Father. And we pray, Lord, that you would also help us to actually be able to fight for what's most important, Lord, and that we may also seek to serve you, Jesus, not to serve ourselves or other things, Lord. And so, Father, as we take communion, we pray, Lord, that that you may remind us of the importance of communion, and that you may remind us of how far you had to go to bring us to this day. And so, Father, we pray that you would soften our hearts towards you, Lord, that we may